All right, folks. I will keep this one brief. Hope you're doing well. Um, Basically, today, watch this video. You guys will do some more practice problems. That's what I got for you. All right, you guys can read the directions here in Thursday in Schoology. But we have one more thing we need to cover. We do have a quiz coming up. It's either going to be, if things look really good when I get back on the worksheet that you guys did the other day, then it'll probably be when I get back on Friday, assuming I'm there on Friday. We'll see how I'm feeling here. But I'm assuming I'm going to be back on Friday, possibly a quiz then or a quiz Monday. Kind of depends how we're doing. So heads up on that. But we have one more thing to cover before we would be ready for a quiz. We know how to find slope now on a graph. We know how to find slope from 2 points. That's great. But we also need to remember, we have this form, right, that we used before. And we had growth. And we had starting value. Now, remember, everything we did when we had growth and starting value had a starting spot. It grew consistently. It created a line. We could find all that stuff on a graph. Now, just the other day, when we first talked about slope, we said slope and growth are the same thing. So when we find slope for something, which we now know how to find for this kind of graph right here, you're going to put it right here. And we've talked about this before. The starting value is just your y-intercept. Where does the graph cross the y-axis? So from now on, if you're asked to create the equation, for a line, you're going to find the slope with now the new way we know to find it. And you're going to find the y-intercept, which we already know how to do. That's the starting value. We know where to find it. Oops. There you go. So let's look at an example here. Okay. For the slope, we talked about this like a day or two ago. Slope is, let's do one at a time. Slope first. If we happen to find the y-intercept, that would be pretty cool, but slope is change in y over change in x. I'm going to pick 2 points. It looks like one. It's hard to, it's hard to see, but let me zoom in a little bit. It's a little hard to see. It doesn't look like 4. I thought it was 4 at first. It looks like it's 5. 5 would be a nice point right there. And if we go down, let's see, not a nice point. Doesn't look like there's another nice point until right here. So just be careful when you're picking your nice points, but there you go. All right, change in y. Let's go up first. So leftmost point. So we picked 2 points on the graph. Start at the left. We'll go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. 9. And then over 1. So my slope is 9. And I'm just going to simplify it to be just 9. Okay. And my y-intercept, my starting value basically, so my growth is 9, or my slope is 9. My y-intercept, we actually already have it here. It's this point right here, 0, 5 is the point. So our y-intercept is 5, so the point 0, 5, and we always, when we found the starting value, there's always that number 5. So when you go to create your equation for this, it is y equals 9. Growth always goes by the x plus 5. really not a whole lot different than the way we've done it before with growth and starting value. Starting value is in the same spot. We just call it the y-intercept because it crosses the y-axis. It's the point where the graph crosses the y-axis, and we now know how to find slope, which is growth. So there you go. Let's look at one more example here. And you could do the y-intercept first. You don't have to do the slope first. Sometimes when you're looking for points, when you do go to find the slope, you kind of find the y-intercept. Like I would probably pick this point and then this point as my two nice points. Well, this nice point right here is my y-intercept because it's the point where we're crossing the y-axis. So the y-intercept is 4. And so you kind of find those things. You find the y-intercept a lot of times first because it's a point on our line. It's almost always a nice point. So there you go. All right, now we'll do the slope in red. Again, change in y, change in x. Start with the leftmost point. Do the y first. It's going up 1, over 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that 4? Is that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry about that. Over 5. So your equation is always put the growth next to the x. The y-intercept is the starting value. Kind of just hangs out there by itself. So there you go. So this line starts at 4 and grows by 1/5, or 1 over 5. All right. Now, what if we do the opposite? What if we're given an equation that we need to graph? And you guys have done this before. I feel like we may have done it in this class, but you definitely did it last year, or whoever you had CC3 with, if you went to this school, went to Exeter. But let's identify our parts and just put them on the graph. Start with the y-intercept. -1. The sign out in front always goes with it. So -1's our y-intercept. So I'm going to put that point right there. Okay. It is a point on our line. And then we have the slope. Now, it may seem kind of odd, but it's always easier when the slope is a fraction, believe it or not. We usually don't like fractions, but for our slope, it's kind of nice when it is a fraction. And here's why. Remember, slope is change in y over change in x. So a fraction tells us how far up or down, depending on positive or negative. And we always go from left to right, so 4 to the right. So when it's in fraction form, it already tells us 1 is my change in y. I'm going to go up 1. I'm going to go over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to plot a point. Really, that's all you need. You need to connect those 2 points for sure. I'm going to put another point on here. I'll do it in green. If you want to go backwards, you go do the opposite, down 1 and to the left. We usually don't go to the left, but to kind of go backwards, that's what you do. And connect all your points, whatever points you draw, and I'm going to fix this up, but there you go. Put arrows on the ends of your lines, draw it through the graph, because the points that you draw, these 3 are not the only points on the line. There's millions of points on a line. These just happen to be the 3 that we graphed, so you have to connect them to show that there's more than those. Put arrows to show it goes on forever. But we start with the y-intercept, use your slope, go from there. All right, you can pause it, go back, follow step by step if you need to for any of your examples. And finally, last one, y-intercept is -3. So let's put a point at -3 on the y-axis. If I wasn't clear, the y-intercept is on the y-axis. And now your slope, it's always by the x, is -3. Now, this is where I'm saying it's kind of helpful to make this into a fraction. You don't have to, but I think it's helpful, and here's why. Because you might be wondering, it's negative, do I go down 3? Do I go the opposite way? What do I do? Well, put it over 1. Any number can be written as a fraction by putting it over 1. Your change in y is -3, so you're going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. And over to the right, it's a positive 1. There's only one, when you have a negative number, there's only one negative you have to deal with. So by going down, you take care of the negative. So go to the right, apply your point. We went over 1. That's where that 1 goes, if you were curious. And connect your points. That's it. You're done. So, like I said, I wanted to keep this as brief as I could. You guys know how to do this. It's just a matter of putting the slope in the right spot and graphing it if you need to. All right, folks, have a good day. Take care. Talk to you later.